Oh, that's heavy. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my review of the 2020 set number 42115 Lamborghini Sian FKP 37. So let's start off with some basic info about this set. It was released in 2020 and it was the third 1/8 scale that was made at the time. It has 3,696 pieces, recommended for ages 18 and up, and in the UK retails for £350. I don't know about other countries, but I believe that it is about $400. So taking a better look at the box here, you can really see that you are getting your £350 worth. It has a very, very, very premium feeling box. I haven't actually opened it yet, but I do believe I know what is inside of it, and it does look really, really cool. So we'll spin it around here, and you can see that they have the Lamborghini logo on the front. Really, really, really nice box, and yeah, let's open it up. Alright, so we've cut the tape, so let's get this box open. Now, I do believe that on the inside of it, it doesn't just have the bags like a normal set does. I think it has separate boxes, so that'll be interesting. Oh, well, that looks really, really, really nice. The boxes on the inside of it are obviously a replication of the back engine cover of the Sian, and this actually looks like insane. So, yeah, I'm going to take all these boxes out and show you guys, and then we'll get building. Okay, so quick side note, because I didn't actually realise this when I was building this set, so this is after it's been built and all the boxes are back in. This is box 1 and then this is box 2, and you can't pull out this one, so you'd assume it would be box 6 because you have to pull them out in order because they have these little flaps. But this is actually box 6 and this is 3. So you can't go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and like pull them out in order. But that doesn't really matter because the instruction manual's actually underneath. So that would be pretty difficult anyway. But it would have been nice to have this as 3 so that you could take the instruction manuals out and then pull out the boxes as you go. Okay, so as you can see here, we have all 6 of the boxes out. Now, I didn't do too much sort of filming while I was building it, mainly because this build took me about 12 hours. But what I can tell you is that the first box has the first part of the gearbox and the rear axle. Second box has the front axle and the finishing bit of the gearbox so you can switch between the gears. The third box has the interior details like steering wheel, seats, everything like that. The fourth box has the rear details of the car, so all the bodywork panels for the rear section. Front has the same thing, but with the fifth box has the same thing, but with the front of the car, so it has all the front details. And then the sixth box has the rims and tyres in. So, yeah, let's basically go straight into the review of this set. Okay, so one last thing before we finally check out this awesome build. These are the 2 instruction manuals. As you can see, they are extremely thick. I think there's just over 1,000 steps, might be closer to 1,100. And there is a couple of mistakes in the instruction manual, but I won't go over them now. I'm going to go over them after I finish talking about the Sian, because I just want to get straight to it, because that is obviously why you guys are here. Okay, and so finally we can check out the Lamborghini Sian. Now, I have to say, this set looks absolutely insane. Like, this just looks fantastic. I can't think of a Technic set that I have or I have seen that looks better than this. Besides maybe the brand new Ferrari Daytona that came out this year. But I don't have that yet. But when I do, definitely going to compare them because I would love to see just the changes and what evolves over 2 years. So yeah, let's pretty much just get straight into the features of this car. Okay, so the first feature that we have here is this little button here, and if you push it down, the doors raise, which I just think is nuts. Now, the mechanism for this is actually less complicated than I thought when I first saw that this was a feature. But yeah, it's a very, very cool mechanism to open the scissor doors. You have the exact same thing on the other side. And the one thing I will say is that they do sometimes get jammed in a really, really weird way, and I can't work out why. I've gone over the instruction manuals like 10 or 20 times to make sure that I haven't like botched any of the build or anything. And obviously I really wanted to make sure that I got this set right because I don't want to screw up a set that is this much money. So I've really gone over and made sure that I've done nothing wrong in the instruction manual, and I think it's something to do with the linkage between here and here. For some reason it catches on a piece, and I don't know what piece it is, and so sometimes you push the button and the doors just refuse to open, and you kind of just have to like give them a yank a bit and then push it down again. No idea why it does that, bit of a bummer, but it is, you know, it's got 3,000 pieces in it. I'm sure I can allow like a couple of mistakes, but yeah, it's just a little bit annoying. Okay, and so the second feature here involves this incredibly complicated looking rear wing. Love the build for this. Like, some of the ways they achieve the like weird angles of this is just like insane, and it looks really, really good. So to activate this feature, you need to look for the lever in front of the passenger seat here, and if you pull back on it, it raises the rear wing. Now, when I was building this feature, it boggles my mind. I do not understand how it works, and it looks so cool with it raised up, and you can even lower it from the button as well. So yeah, it just looks really, really insane, and I'm so surprised they were able to get this feature in, because in the last 1/8 scale supercar they did before this one was the Bugatti Chiron, and to open the rear wing on that one, there's like a Technic key that you had to put into the back of the car and twist, and that would raise the spoiler. So it's insane that they've been able to find something that connects this all the way through all of the car to there. Just looks really, really cool. So the next feature here is the steering. Now, it's a little bit difficult to show because with how much weight is on the front wheels, you can't really turn the steering wheel just because of how heavy the car is, but you can move it, and you'll see that the steering wheel does actually move. And unfortunately, it doesn't have the knob that they have on the top of them, like the gears. I think it's called like hand of God steering, and it doesn't have that, which is a little bit of a pain. But then again, it's not really designed for people to play with because, well, one, it's massive, and two, it's not really designed for kids. Obviously, with all of this box art and everything like that, you can obviously tell it's not designed for kids. So yeah, I can understand why they don't have it, but it still would have been like a cool feature, especially since you can normally remove them. Okay, and so now we move to the beginning of one of the most complicated parts of this car, which is the gearbox. Now, this bit here is the DNR selector, which stands for drive, neutral, and reverse. So I have it in drive at the moment, where the gear stick is positioned forwards, and that gives you access to all of the 8 gears within the 8-speed gearbox. I'll get into that when I go through the gearbox. So then you can flick it back, and it is in neutral, which means that if you turn the wheels, it will not drive the fake engine that's back here. Like, nothing would happen. And then if you put it in reverse, when you drive the wheels forward, the engine runs at a constant speed, and it's not affected by the gears. So if you're in reverse, yes, you can still move the car forward, but you can't. If you change gear while you're in reverse, the engine speed does not change. It will remain constant. Okay, so I spun the car around a little bit just so you can see how this 8-speed gearbox works. Now I'm going to flick the DNR selector into drive. Now what this means is that as I click on the flappy paddles behind the gearbox, or behind the steering wheel, it will change up and down the 8 gears. So the way that it works, if you don't know, is that at a constant speed, different gears will make the engine run faster. So let's say that you're traveling at 10 miles an hour and you're in first gear. The engine will run really, really quickly, and the pistons go up and down really, really quickly. Obviously, in a real car, if you go into like 8th gear at 10 miles an hour, it would stall, but we'll just ignore that. So then if you go into higher gears, the engine, although you're going at the same speed, the engine runs slower. Now, I don't know like the full explanation of it, but that's kind of the best job I can do, especially since this isn't really about, you know, like cars and mechanics, because I don't know anything about that. So yeah, anyway, the 8-speed gearbox is fantastic, and it works by flipping these paddles behind the steering wheel. I'm amazed that they were able to get the gearboxes back here underneath the engine, and they're able to get like all of the stuff, like all the different outputs and stuff, to go all the way through here and then come, so that you only have to flick 2 buttons to switch between 8 gears. No idea how they did it. So if you flick this one forward, it will go down, and if you flick this one here, it will go up. Now, when you get to the 8th gear, you don't have to go all the way back down to 1. You can just flick it, and it will go straight back to 1. So you can just only click the forward one. Again, I don't know how any of the gearbox works. Do not ask me. It was the most complicated thing I've ever built. And yeah, so you can flick the gearbox in between different gears. So it will just move by moving all of these gears. Now, I would show you the difference in speed. Oh, I think I just broke it. Okay, so I put the piece back on that I knocked off. I was kind of pushing it in the wrong way. I still don't really know what I'm doing with this. Anyways, yeah, what I was going to say is I can't really demonstrate the difference between the gears because I don't have one of the Lego Technic motors to, like, spin the wheels so you can actually see it moving. And also the engine cover, like, underneath this, there's a whole thing on top of the engine, so you can't really see the pistons move. So I'd have to take it apart a bit. So I'm not going to do that, but in the future, if I do have one of the Lego Technic motors, I will definitely do that. Okay, so let's take a look at the finer details of the front section of this car. Now, there are some insane angles here. Like, I have no idea how this whole assembly came together. I remember building it. It was super, super complex. Luckily, I didn't make too many mistakes. But one that I did make, actually, was this piece here is in lime green. And somewhere in there's an identical one of this that was black. And I put this one in the build somewhere. So I got to putting this front fender piece on. I got to here and I had a black one and not a lime one, And so I went through like all of the bags, like all of the steps and stuff, and then I opened up the bonnet here, and I could just see it somewhere down there. I'd used the wrong colour. Speaking of opening up the bonnet, underneath it we have this like hand luggage bag. Now they have had these in the two sets previous to this, which was the Chiron and the Porsche 911. They both had these hand luggage bags. I don't know why they do them. I think it's sort of a nod to like the fact that supercars normally have the like the boot in the front of the car, or like trunk for you American people. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, so they normally have that in the front of the car because the engine's in the back. So yeah, it's like a little hand luggage bag. I don't know. I guess it kind of adds something to the set. It also has a giant hole in the bottom of it, so it's not the greatest build in the world, but you know, it's a nice inclusion, I guess. It kind of looks nice to the set, next to the set like that. Generally, I keep it out of there just because when you're like picking up the set and moving it around, which I'm doing a lot because I like staring at it, it just sort of rattles around and it keeps making me think that like there's a piece loose or something. So yeah, but the front of this car, like just the angles and stuff, I have like no idea how they did some of this, and also very difficult for me to show, so I'll do this when I flip it over and show you the gearbox on the bottom. But they've achieved some really weird angles with the bottom of this plate. It's actually slightly raised up. So yeah, I'll show you that guys when I like flip it over so you can actually see the gearbox. And so now we have the back of the car, and you can obviously see that huge spoiler that I was talking about earlier. And you can also see down there is the little bit of housing for the bit that raises it. And just the back of this car just looks like nuts. I have no idea, again, how the hell they come up with some of the designs for these. Like, I'm building it and I'm like, there's no way somebody thought of this. So they've also recreated like the fins on the side of here, and again, this whole assembly, while not being very complex, it's just incredible how they're able to get the angles and stuff so close with Lego Technic pieces. You can also see that you have the two exhausts down here. Now this was one of the sections in the instruction manual that I found a problem with, was that when you put in the exhausts, they're completely loose. Like, there's no indication of like one of the little Technic pins to actually clip it in. There's only the axles, and the axles don't go into the cross sections of a piece. They go into like the holes, so it just slides out if you lift it up. And I thought, oh, don't worry, I'm sure that there'll be like a piece that goes over it that stops it from coming out. Went through the whole build, finished it, picked it up, and they fell off. So I went through the instruction manual, and like, I'll talk more about it when I get into the instruction manual, but there wasn't anything saying it. So I had to put in the piece which I assumed was the right one, because I had two of them left over at the end. But yeah, they just seem to have not printed that piece into the instruction manual, which is really weird. Anyway, besides that, the back of the car looks just like insane. It's a very faithful like copy of the original car, and a lot of people were complaining about this not being trans red. I actually prefer it because I think it helps it stand out, because behind it is black, and then you've got the like the Sian's green color around it. So I think it helps it stand out that it's a solid color rather than like the trans red. And also, I don't think they make any of those two pieces in trans red. So yeah, like, it would have been a bit of a pain for them to do. And then the final part of this back section is actually the removable engine cover, and the engine is nuts. The detail on the inside of here is insane. It looks super cool. Obviously, you can see the suspension there, which is fully functioning. It doesn't work too well on the front, and I think that's just because more of the weight is over the front, so there's not as much suspension travel. But they also, when you're building it, they literally make it like that so that the front suspension is a lot more like tightened. And I do think that's actually accurate to the way that supercars at least are built, and I don't know why, but I think that that's correct. Anyway, you can see that you have the cross brace on top here, which, funnily enough, is actually made out of flex axle, so it doesn't give any rigidity at all. But then underneath that, you can see we have some brilliant detail for the V12 engine. Now, I will say that all of the pieces in this set that you see, like this, and the little things here on the steering, what are they called? Like, just the logo on the wheels, and the carbon fiber here, all of it's printed. There's not a single sticker sheet in here. So I imagine these tiles will be pretty difficult to come by, but they are super nice. And I really wish they come in another set soon, because they look awesome. So yeah, then you can also see you have some like exhaust detail and stuff like that, and just the whole inside of the back section here looks insane. And you can also see the mechanism for those doors we talked about earlier. Now, I still don't know what made those things break sometimes, but I don't know. If it happens during the review, I'll talk about it a bit more. The only other thing that we need to have a look at before we flip this thing over and take a look at the gearbox is just the interior of this car. Now, it's not amazingly detailed. Again, I assume it's probably faithful to the original. I doubt that they'd put like cup holders in a car that's meant to do like 200 miles an hour, like duh. But at the end of the day, does look like pretty nice actually. Those seats do look relatively comfy if they weren't made out of plastic. But yeah, it's an okay interior, but besides the seats, there's not really much interior details. Besides, obviously, you have like the steering wheel and the fluffy pedal gearbox. But yeah, besides that, it's okay, but I think they could have done a bit better, especially with maybe paneling off the inside of this. So you like, that's the one thing I think that draws away from it, is that the inside of the door you can see, and it doesn't look pretty. But yeah, let's flip it over and take a look at the gearbox. See, so we flipped it over, but before I get into the gearbox, you can see that angle of the front I was talking about, the way that it's like raised up slightly. Again, weird contraption. Don't know how it was done, but it looks cool. And yeah, this is the underside of it. Pretty polished off, but then you can see we have the massive gearbox. I actually do really like the fact that this is like exposed. It looks super cool. Again, I can't turn any of the gears or anything because these two wheels, it's actually four-wheel drive. So if I turn this one, it's going to try and turn that, and it's just going to flip it over and break it. And I don't want it falling off my table because, like, that would be really bad. So yeah, I won't show you it working, but the way that the gearbox works, from what I understand, is that this side is practically a multiplier for this side. So it will do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's got this little, I don't know how to put it, but it's like a little cross beam, and it basically flicks over and it multiplies this side by this side. So it'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, multiplier kicks in, and then it'll go through 1, 2, 3, 4 again, but with an increased speed. So like, I appreciate that doesn't really make much sense without me being able to show you, but unfortunately, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm not gonna mess about with it. So yeah, that is the gearbox, and that has been the Lamborghini Sian. I will put it back on its wheels now. So I appreciate this kind of video is a bit different to what I normally do. Obviously, it's not Star Wars, but when I got this set, I just had to do a review just because of the fact that I spent so much money on it. Well, not me, but my mum did. And I don't want to, how can I best put it? I'm going to milk it for all that it's worth, pretty much. That's pretty much what's happening here. But yeah, I did want to do a review of this because it is actually probably one of my new favourite sets in my entire collection. Final thing I'm going to do here before we check out the instruction manuals is I'm just going to put it next to some Star Wars sets that you guys might have, because obviously I know my viewers are most likely Star Wars fans from what I do normally on this channel. So yeah, I'm going to put that against some bigger Star Wars sets, and you can just see how massive this set is. Okay, so here is the UCS A-Wing. Now, it's not the biggest UCS set in the world, but it looks tiny compared to this set. It looks tiny. Like, it kind of looks like a sort of £100 set, like nowhere near as much as it really is. And this set just dwarfs everything in my collection, like 80-80? Nah, this is just much bigger. Like, if I just quickly grab the Razor Crest and put that down here, look at this. The Razor Crest looks tiny. This set is massive. It's huge, and yeah, I just cannot believe that I was able to get this set. Now, one thing I will say, if you guys do want to pick this up, which I highly suggest if you're remotely interested in Technic and or like just supercars, anything like that, is I did not buy this from Lego, because £350, while I don't think it's a massive rip-off, it's a bit out of my budget range. So if you go on very.com, I know that sounds really weird, but they actually have this set for $270, which I think is like 25% off, and it's on like a buy now pay later thing, so you can like pay it back slowly over like a year or whatever, which is way better than like handing them 270 quid up front, because even that is still, you know, a lot of money. But yeah, if you guys definitely want to get that set, that's like the best way I would suggest. And it's probably going to retire at the end of this year, because it is 2 years old as of recording this. So yeah, I don't know if it'll retire at the end of this year, especially with the new car being out, but the Bugatti, the Chiron, I think that was out for 4 years, so this may stay on shelves for a bit longer. To be honest with you, I have no idea. Okay, so I do appreciate this review is probably getting really long, and if you don't really care about the rest of it, then that'd be fine if you just want to like leave. But yeah, so these are the instruction manuals, and I will go through just quickly the front couple of pages of it. Now, it does have like the usual UCS this like amazing feeling to like the beginning of the instruction manual, where they go through like the set and the design and the people that built it and the real car, and it just is nuts. Now I haven't had a chance to read through this yet because I've been trying to get this review out, but yeah, it is, from what I've heard, pretty interesting, and you can see some of the basic models of the car and stuff like that. And yeah, so the inside of this instruction manual is really, really good. Now there are 2 mistakes in the instruction manual that I want to talk about, and I'm going to see if I can just quickly find them. Not sure what books they're in, but yeah. Okay, so the first mistake here is on step 269, page 186. And it's not really a mistake, but it's just something weird, is that this cross axle is like out of position in the digital render they use for the build. Kind of weird. It doesn't really affect the build experience at all. But yeah, I just noticed that while I was going through it, and I thought I'd mention it. Okay, so I was looking for the second mistake, and I realised that the second mistake was me. I made a huge mistake, which was that, so you see you're building this here, which is the exhaust manifold or whatever, like the bit that comes out the back, I don't know. And you get to this stage, and then you put on these 2 pieces, and then you put on this blue cross axle. Now, what I didn't do was read the instruction manual properly, and I just put this in, and there was nothing like, you know, this pin here to actually connect it into the Technic beam behind it. And I was like, oh, that's really, really dumb. I can't believe they made that mistake. But I realised that it had one of the cross things there, so I actually put this piece in, not knowing it was even the right one, just like having an assumption, put it in, worked fine, got to the end of the build, lovely, you know, no problems. Came back to this and realised I'm actually just a massive idiot. So there was no problem with the instruction manual whatsoever, besides that like weird thing with that red Technic axle. So yeah, that has pretty much been the review, and I've just realised I'm a complete idiot. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week, hopefully, and we should be back to Star Wars. So yeah, as I say in Canada, peace out.